Hello everybody, my name is Adam Morgan Ibbotson, and I may have stumbled upon one of Britain's most interesting archaeological mysteries. Our story begins here, in the tourist trap village of Grasmere, in northwest England. Every year, hundreds of thousands of visitors come here to admire the mountainous scenery, visit William Wordsworth's house, and queue far too long for some, quite frankly, overrated gingerbread. On the surface, there is nothing particularly mysterious about this place, but as you will learn throughout this video, there was definitely something quite important happening here during prehistory. The year was 2020, and I was sat reading a book from 2007 titled Prehistoric Monuments of the Lake District by ex-county archaeologist of Cumbria, Tom Clare. In it, he briefly mentioned a lost stone circle in the tourist trap village of Grasmere. He notes that it could not be located with any certainty, but suggested that it may have once stood at the foot of Dunmail Raise, this rise of land here that leads north out of Grasmere. Well, that is a tantalisingly mad subject to simply skim over. This claim is extraordinary for several reasons, much of which has to do with a major discovery made a decade after Clare's book was originally published. But despite Grasmere being rammed with tourists for over 2 centuries, no trace of such a megalithic circle has ever been described in any detail. Curious about Clare's source for this, I followed his citation back to its origin. This led me to one Reverend J. Hodgson and his 1810 travel guide, A Topographical and Historical Description of Westmoreland. Hodgson's work features one of the earliest descriptions of northern England's lesser-known prehistoric sites and records several key monuments as they stood before the Industrial Revolution. But almost as a side note, he mentions the following while discussing Grasmere. There are smaller heaps of stone on the south side of Raisbeck, and where the road turns off from Keswick to the village of Grasmere is an ancient monument consisting of several large stones in a circular form, but many of them have been displaced to make room for the roads. This is the only known contemporary description of this monument. Hodgson provides no dimensions or precise location, and no indication of its age. As a result, the account remains completely mysterious, and most interestingly, to me at least, he notes that the monument had already been partially demolished in his own day, making it understandable that no further descriptions of the site ever materialised. And you have to remember, in 1810, Grasmere was basically a backwater most people would never have ventured into. One possibility was that Hodgson had been describing a large megalithic temple, what I would call a Cumbrian circle. And, I'm the expert on this, so you have to trust me. Nearby monuments, such as the famous Castlerigg, Swinside, and Long Meg, belong to this tradition, which dates between 3200 and 2500 BC, the mid to late Neolithic. Specifically, Hodgson's reference to several large stones in a circular form would support this, particularly as he rarely commented on the size of standing stones anywhere else in his work. So these were presumably very big stones, like these. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Oopsie daisy. Alternatively, the monument may have been the remains of some form of burial monument. Across northern England, prehistoric burial monuments were frequently enclosed by rings of upright curbstones, most famously those at Newgrange, Douth, and Knowth. If such a thing was robbed for stone, the central mound would disappear while the megalithic curb would survive for a time, leaving a feature that resembled a stone circle. In fact, most stone circles across the UK are exactly this, but it's far more likely, in my opinion, that this was one of those Cumbrian circle sort of temple-like things that I mentioned.
Hello everyone, and welcome today to Grasmere. If you know the Lake District, you'll know that this is one of the more touristy villages.
With Hodgson's description in mind, I headed into Grasmere to have a look at that exact area, specifically this road here, which occupies the historic junction known as Smithy Bridge, next to the Swan Hotel. This is where the historic road through Grasmere once met the road to Keswick, as Hodgson described. And as you can see, several massive stones survive at the base of this wall along this road, known as Pie Lane. And there's this one here where the stone sits on top of the wall, so clearly it had been moved.
Let this be a challenge to anyone who wants to come and visit Grasmere and potentially search for this lost stone circle, because there is the field in which it probably once sat. And there is the wall that bounds it. Now, you find me a wall in Grasmere that looks like this, with those big megalithic stones on its foundation. This one right here is the tallest of the stones in the wall. Quite a pointy little thing. And it does remind me a lot of the stones you find at other stone circles, particularly Swinside Stone Circle. But yeah, you find me a place up here that has walls like this. Very strange.
This area is broadly where Hodgson described, and if these stones represented the surviving edge of a monument, the area enclosed between them and the road would suggest a circle approximately 70 metres in diameter. Now everybody, please do take a moment to stop and comment. What do you think about these stones in this wall? Because I'm pretty amazed by this. I don't think I've ever seen a wall with this many megalithic stones in it, but you tell me, have you seen this anywhere else? Now, we don't know this for certain, and I initially assumed that these stones came from this field to the immediate east. And while flying my drone, I did get a bit excited to see some crop marks with the flowers.
That is insane. I mean, I just flew my drone over this field, and it looks like there's something unrecorded in there. That's absolutely massive. I'll have to check the LiDAR, but I'm pretty sure nothing survives in there. And even if it did, I feel like that field's too sort of perfectly surrounding it for that to be archaeological. But I don't know, I'll have to check.
My excitement, however, was being a little bit wasted here, as the biggest revelation was yet to come. You see, way back in 2020, I had been perusing the National Trust's heritage database and happened upon mention of a possible standing stone in a graveyard, which is just in the field next door. I hadn't really thought much of it, but upon visiting... Oh, okay, right. Now, these are some very obvious megalithic stones. This one here, in particular, looks almost Stonehenge-like, and you can really imagine it standing upright. Edge to edge, they form an area around 65 metres in diameter, so similar to the span of stones in the nearby wall. That same National Trust heritage database that I was talking about once detailed several very little-known Neolithic rock art sites actually in the village of Grasmere, which had only just been discovered around the period of 2015 to 2020. One of them was already well known and sits in Broadgate Park, and then there were two more that had been discovered, one at Allen Bank and one on this rock here overlooking the village.
At risk of looking like some kind of cottager, I'm wandering up through the park here into this little section of trees. It might not look like much, but this rock here, overlooking Grasmere's tourist car park, is actually one of the largest canvases of prehistoric rock art in northern England.
For the most part, these are just cup marks, simple designs that were likely carved in the Neolithic, probably, in my opinion, the early Neolithic, so sometime between 4000 and 3200 BC. But that crag, overlooking the village, features a motif only known from two other places. The next valley over, known as the Langdale Valley, which is a place where a third of all early Neolithic stone axes were quarried. And if that's not exciting enough, this motif was also found in Ireland in association with Newgrange, Knowth and Dowth. Interestingly too, there were several polished stone axes found in the space between Allenbank and this crag, so it is likely that people were journeying over this hill from Langdale.
Now you might be asking, Adam, what is it about these quite sort of rudimentary rock art designs on this crag in particular, in the middle of this chocolate box village, that makes them so important? Well, I think realistically, it's not the rock art itself. It's the fact that it dates to the Neolithic, and it's the fact that it sits on this crag, right in the middle of the valley. To me, that screams signposting through the landscape.
So it is likely that people were journeying over this hill from Langdale, coming through Grasmere and sweeping up through the valley for whatever reason. These people were potentially associated with Ireland, and those people were wandering through Grasmere carving these designs and potentially building our stone circle. And I think this connection is pretty clear, considering that the famous Castlerigg Stone Circle sits just over the valley to the north, which is often associated with both Newgrange and the Langdale axes. Grasmere, its rock art, and its lost stone circle start making some sense. And it would seem that this unassuming village was once pretty bloody important in the Neolithic, before being largely destroyed, and today totally forgotten. How mad is that? And as a little bonus, going back to my last video on LiDAR, do you want to see something really cool? How about this? This is the island in the middle of Grasmere Lake, or just Grasmere if you're a local. And if I flick over to LiDAR, can you see that? There's some kind of enclosure on the southern end of it, which, to my knowledge, has never been recorded. So whatever the hell that was, I don't know. It looks Roman Iron Age to me, some kind of sort of hill fort type thing. But I don't know. Somebody, if you've got a boat, float on over and have a look for me, please. Legally, obviously, you know, don't break any laws unless you're really interested. But I think that just about covers Grasmere's Stone Circle. It's been on my to-do list for a little while, but I thought while I was in town, I should let you all in on it. Go and have a look for it, go find some megalithic stone circles, and certainly go look for some more rock art, because I feel like we're only looking at the tip of the iceberg here, and there must be so much more left to find in and around Grasmere. I've been Adam Morgan Ibbotson, and if you like this video, please do like, subscribe, and hype the video, and also please comment.